Hey, beautiful friends, it's Catherine here. It has been quite a while since I have been on live. The energy has been kind of mellow for me. I've been doing a lot of inner work and really haven't felt guided, even though there were things I wanted to share. I was not motivated enough to actually get on and do that. But here I am. I was just out for my walk on this beautiful spring evening and noticing I was away for a week. I went to Detroit to celebrate my sister's 80th birthday with her and to meet my, I don't know whether it's grand or great nephews, my nieces, little boys, who have been born since I actually officiated my niece and her wife's wedding in Costa Rica 4 years ago. So they have since brought two little boys into their family. And so it was my first opportunity to meet them. And that was delightful. And we also, thanks to my brother-in-law who knows the area well and also likes to drive, we got to drive, we left from Detroit and we drove into rural Ohio to get into the path of totality for the eclipse. So I got to have that experience, once in a lifetime experience with them. Well, I was there and it was all wonderful. And I got home and, it was a couple of days of not so great weather. And then I got out yesterday and today I just noticed all of a sudden, like the trees were blooming and the pink and white, I guess they're cherry blossom trees, were in full bloom, and it looked so beautiful. And it just reminded me of how Mother Nature just does its thing, right? She doesn't worry about the weather or whether it's the right timing or what anybody else is going to think if she blooms right now. And we can take some lessons from that, right? Just the cycle of living more in tune with the cycles of nature and not worrying so much about what everybody's going to think or whether this is the right time or whether we're ready or, whatever it might be, all the ways in which maybe I know I can, and I certainly have spoken to enough women over the years to say with some confidence that many of us hold ourselves back, worry too much about what someone else is going to think, or we're going to hurt somebody's feelings, or it's not the right time, or I'm afraid of being visible, or what if I say something stupid, or on and on, or it looks, I look like I'm being selfish. I don't know, whatever it is. There's a very long list of beliefs and programs and patterns that women carry and, become subject to over generations of patriarchal rule and suppression of our emotions, of our needs, of so many things. So anyway, I wasn't going to say all of that, but when I get on, it just kind of starts to flow. While I was walking, which is often when I get ideas, that flow through me. If I don't come home and sort of jump on and do it right away, it doesn't happen. So just as I was getting in the door, I happened to check my phone and there was a text there from someone I had reached out to, and she mentioned that she had been so exhausted that she literally had slept the entire day that I had texted her, and so she was sort of apologizing for that. So I thought I would just get on and actually see how you're all doing in this, technically post-eclipse, right? The eclipse happened last week, the second eclipse, but honestly, the energy of this eclipse is going to carry into the years ahead. So there's the sort of immediate energy around the eclipse and everything else that's been happening within this 2 to 3 week window, which I'll share a little bit about. But there's also the bigger picture of the energy that's being ushered in during, as a result of these two eclipses and the planetary alignments. Now, I am not an astrologer, and most of the time my head is spinning. If someone is talking about this is conjuncting this or squaring that or trining that, like, God bless them. astrology is one of those things that I just realized I didn't have the bandwidth to really dive into. I have dove headfirst into many, many different kinds of healing modalities and techniques and processes, and there are some that I just felt like I did not have the bandwidth, and astrology is one of those. But I follow some brilliant people who do know a lot about astrology, so I know just enough to sound like maybe I know what I'm talking about a little bit. So I want to share with you what else has been happening besides this eclipse, right? So there were actually 2 eclipses. Eclipses happen in cycles, and they're typically 2 weeks apart, one on a full moon and one in the new moon. And so we had a full moon partial lunar eclipse at the end of March, which I think because it was at night for us, and it was not, it wasn't hyped as much, and not as many people were aware of it. And the energy of an eclipse starts before the eclipse, right? So we sort of have the pre-eclipse energy and then the energy of the full moon. And that eclipse, the full moon, is always about releasing what's not serving us. From the times of our ancestors, generations back, anyone who practiced more of earth ritual, cyclical living. The new moon was about, the full moon is about releasing. And then as we come into the new moon, which is just the crescent, it's about setting intention or creating, planting the seeds, if you will. So the second eclipse that happened on April 8th happened on the new moon, which, as I just said, is always the planting seeds and sort of what is it that we want to create and intend and manifest and call in. It also happened in Aries, which, again, according to the cyclic calendar that our ancestors used, Aries is really the beginning of the year. So we had the first house, the new moon that happened in Aries with this eclipse. So there was, a lot of that new energy, releasing the old, bringing in the new. And in between the 2 eclipses at the beginning of the beginning of April 1st, actually, I think it was, Mercury went retrograde. And basically what that means is the way the planets orbit around the sun from the Earth, it looks like Mercury is going backwards. And that happens 4 times a year for about 3 weeks. And, you've probably heard, oh, Mercury in retrograde, right? Everything goes haywire. And there is some truth to that because Mercury rules things like communication and travel and technology. And so all of those things can go a little sideways when Mercury is in retrograde, right? Those kinds of things, it's almost as though they're slowing down and things are getting a little wonky with them. But the beauty of Mercury in retrograde, right, looking back, is that it's a time to do exactly that. It's a time to review, reevaluate, reorganize, recommit, or decide if you want to recommit. So it's an opportunity to really slow down and do all of those things. Review, reevaluate, reimagine, reorganize, whatever else. There's a whole bunch of words that I'm not remembering right now. But that's the beauty of Mercury in retrograde. It can get a little wonky, but it really is the opportunity to turn inward. And then we get to reimagine, recommit, right? Reassign, renew, we get rebirth, reclaim. You know, we sort of shift from the retro R words to the forward thinking R words as we come out of Mercury in retrograde. And that is going to happen at the end of the month. So those are some of the things that have just been going on for the last 3 weeks or so. And if you remember when I talked about, I think it was Uranus moving into Aquarius a number of months ago, kind of ushering in the age of Aquarius, what's also happening is that some of the outer planets are all lining up in Aquarius, which is, again, also a time of peace and harmony and new ideas. And so there's going to be a lot of that kind of energy ushered in as these outer planets, which impact society at large, right? The planets that are closer to the sun are more personal. This is my understanding. The planets that are further away from the sun are more sort of about culture, systems, governments, you know, bigger sort of collective and global issues. So we have a lot going on. And in this energy of these eclipses and of Mercury in retrograde, and also Chiron, also known as the wounded healer, and Chiron, I believe, it's a planetary object. I don't know whether they're calling it a planet, an asteroid, something else just moving through space. I'm not sure. But it's been called the wounded healer. And it was also moving through Aries in this last short period of time. So the wounded healer was literally right in the spotlight of this full solar eclipse. And so many of us are noticing perhaps that things from the past are coming up, maybe relationships that we thought were complete, or trauma that we thought we had healed, or memories that we hadn't thought of in, you know, ages may be coming up in our dreams. We might hear a song that just reminded us of something. Somebody might mention someone's name. Somebody might contact you. So again, there are all of these opportunities for these things to come to the surface. First to be revealed. Oh, here's this again, right? And then to be healed. So what I would like to invite you to do in this period of time is to notice when you're getting triggered, right? Something is just irritating the crap out of you, or somebody says something and you just want to, you know, lash out, or you pull an oracle card and all of a sudden you're sobbing and you don't know why. I mean, just things that happen in life. Somebody cuts you off in traffic, or your boss says something to you, or your partner's being unresponsive or a little persnickety. Just notice where you're getting triggered. And then if normally you might go into reactivity about that, right? Old pattern, old reaction, same shit, different day, right? I'm going to ask you to try something a little bit different. And this may be hard at first, but it will get easier with time. And that is to just notice, oh, I just got this sense, sorry, I keep getting notices here. Oh, I just noticed this sensation in my body. It just all of a sudden got hard to breathe, or I had this real weird twist in my gut, or my eyes started twitching, right? Just notice I'm having a physical sensation. I'm having some emotion bubbling up, or some thought just came through my mind. I don't even know where that came from, but you know, it was something, it was something unpleasant. So just notice those things. No judgment. You know, in the past, maybe you might have dismissed it. That was nothing. I just imagined it. Or you might have gotten upset with whoever it was you thought caused that thing. Or maybe you got upset with yourself. I'm acting like an idiot. This is so stupid. Why am I thinking about that again? Right? I'm going to invite you to really hold yourself and even the situation with a lot of compassion and maybe even gratitude. Realizing that if something is coming up, it's coming up because it's ready to be healed. Your higher self, your guides, whoever else is involved with this beautiful spiritual intervention is letting you know that it's time and you are ready to go back to this memory person. And I don't mean necessarily in person, go back to them, but go back to the experience, go back to the memory, go back to the hurt, go back to the sadness or the disappointment or the anger, and just be with it. Don't judge it. Don't try to dismiss it. Don't brush it off. Don't point the finger at someone else or yourself. As best you can, stay in a place of, okay, if this is happening, it's happening for me. And, you know, if you've worked with me, you hear me say this ad nauseum. It's happening for me, not to me. Take yourself out of that victim space and into the place of trust and grace and curiosity to be able to say, I wonder why this is coming up right now. How can this be happening for me? Is there something here for me to heal or learn? Right? Allow yourself to be curious and just notice. Take a few breaths. And you may find that when you turn your attention to whatever it is you're noticing, the physical sensation, the emotion bubbling up, the thought that's, you know, coming through your mind, as soon as you give it your attention, it starts to dissipate. I often say to my clients, you know, imagine like a little child, your little child or a little child that you know or love, who is in the other room playing very nicely, and all of a sudden you get on the phone or you get on a Zoom call or you're talking to, you know, your bank about a problem. And as soon as they know that your attention is somewhere else, you may find them, right, coming to get your attention, pulling on your pant leg, wanting, right? And if you know, push them away or not now, go away, I'm busy, whatever, they're just going to become more persistent. Well, if some part of you is looking for attention, needing love, needing understanding, needing compassion, just needing to be seen or heard, in that moment, trying to push it away, push it down, minimize it, blame somebody else isn't the answer. The answer is to turn into it and give it a few moments. I see you. I hear you. I'm aware. Is there anything else you want me to know? Is there something that you need? Literally talking to yourself. It doesn't make you crazy. It makes you conscious. And when you're conscious, then healing can happen. I'm just noticing if there's anything else that wants to come through. It sort of feels like that was the message. To move from reactivity to responsibility, right? Taking a breath, having a little space, becoming curious, and then seeing if there is a response that feels appropriate, rather than reacting out of those old, unconscious, habitual patterns. So as we continue through, this next, 10 or 12 days of Mercury in retrograde and the post-eclipse energy, and I understand there's another conjunction, maybe it's Jupiter and Saturn, I'm not sure, coming up in a few days. Some people have been talking about that. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube if you're interested. Just know that if you're feeling exhausted, if you're feeling emotional, or maybe you're feeling great, right? And for me, it's been a little bit of both. There have been times when it's like, oh, I am just going to lay down. Biomat, here I come. And then, there have been times when I'm feeling much more energized, and especially when the sun is out. So just notice what's happening for you as we continue to move through these energies. Remind yourself that whatever is happening for you. Get curious about what the opportunity for healing is there. Get out in nature, right? The more you're outside, the more you're moving, the more you're hydrating, the more you're staying off of the social media and the news and the things that will, really add to the heaviness of the energy, because honestly, there's so much. I have to say, this morning, I went to sit down to pull some cards and do my spiritual practice. And I just had a few moments of being completely overwhelmed at everything that's going on in the world right now, especially what's going on in the Middle East right now. And I just let myself be with it for a few minutes, knowing that we're in this energy. Whoops. And it's going to be there. The world is really in a crazy place. And the more you can support your own mental, emotional, physical, spiritual health and well-being, the more you can do the practices that help you stay grounded and in a more positive mindset, and at the same time allow yourself to process emotions as they're coming up, the better you'll be able to manage all of the energies that are in the air these days. All right, my friends, have a beautiful rest of your evening or morning or afternoon, wherever you are. And please leave some comments if you feel inclined. And I don't know, maybe you'll see me again soon. All right, bye-bye.